5.4, factoring by special patterns, grouping, and like substitution. Well, that's in there. First pattern we'll talk about is an old pattern. It's the difference of two squares. Then we'll talk about the sum of two cubes and difference of two cubes. So the first pattern is old. Factor and solve 25x squared minus 225. And I gave you a hint there, the difference of two squares pattern is a squared minus b squared. Now it factors a plus b times a minus b, which is on your form quiz. There it is. You can actually make number one a little bit easier to do if you will look at it and think about what you can pull from both terms to start. What do you think 25 and 225 have in common? A little more than 5. 25. Come on, aren't you supposed to know what 25 is? No, you're not supposed to know what 25 squared is, are you? Yeah, you are.
5.
No one goes down to 20? Anyways, you can pull a 25. How many times 25 enter 225?
5.
No. 9. That makes your numbers smaller. It's a lot easier to factor x squared minus 9 than it is to factor 25x squared minus 225. Okay? How does x squared minus 9 factor using this pattern right here?
X and positive 3 and negative 3.
There you go. X and x. The root of 9 is 3. So plus 3 to 3 minus 3 to 3. And this says stay equal to 0. So it says factor and solve. I noticed on the last basics quiz I gave you, it's actually the second question, but half my students couldn't do the solve the factor quadratic problem. What do you do with each set of parentheses? No. My little finger not big enough for this on the board, but I cover up. What's it say about x minus 3? What's it say about x plus 3? It doesn't make any sense to say 25 equals 0, does it? So x plus 3 is 0, or x minus 3 is 0. One or both of those are true. If x plus 3 is 0, what's the x value? Negative 3. And if x minus 3 is 0, what's the x value? 3. All right, number 2 says express 36 squared minus 21 squared is the difference of two squares in as many ways as possible without calculating the final value, i.e. write equivalent expressions. That's an a squared minus b squared pattern. What do you square to become 36 squared? I knew you'd say 6. It's wrong.
6 squared.
Just 36. To become 36 squared, don't you square 36?
Yeah. We lose 36 squared. 36.
It was 36 squared, so I take a 36 and square it. What do you square to become a 21 squared?
21.
21.
You actually say 36.
Huh?
Have you ever had somebody actually
No, I always say 6. I just wait for it to be wrong.
Basically the same as multiplying those two by each other, like 36 times 36 minus 21 times 21 is just the same as 36 minus 21.
Well, it's saying that 36, I didn't hear your signs there because I can't hear quite well. But yes, it is equivalent to 36 plus 21 because I'm following that pattern times 36 minus 21.
Oh, all right.
That's all it's looking for here. You guys may not remember there was a question similar to that on your benchmark. Well, I'll get it out in a little bit when we actually get to it. There's almost always a question like this put on the non-calculated part of your EOC. And they'll ask you what they'll say, which of these is equivalent to 36 squared minus 21 squared, and they'll have 4 choices. None of them are the numerical answer. It's where they rewrite it. That's all they do. That's the rewrite.
They also have one of those in the as
You would not add that on the ASVAB. Really?
The ASVAB was.
That's the first law of thermodynamics.
The ASVAB. I think equal is different. Yeah.
I got a bloody nose in the middle of it.
Stop doing coke. Oh man, I'm recording. Oh well. Alright, here's difference 2 cubes pattern. I don't think anybody in this room has it memorized. A cubed minus b cubed factors as a minus b, it's a little set of parentheses, times a squared plus ab plus b squared. And you've had months to memorize that ahead of time if you wanted to, but you chose not to. I've got an example that's worked out. It's 27x cubed minus 64. And when I see 27x cubed, what I see is a 3x that's cubed. Because what's 3x times 3x times 3x? And when I see a 64, I see a 4 cubed. That's how I pick out my A and my B. Okay? No? This isn't the a squared minus b squared pattern.
Oh, I see.
This is a cubed minus b cubed. Now I just substitute in. Everywhere I see an a, I'm a 3x. Everywhere I see a b, I'm a 4. So I plug in the pattern, 3x all squared, 3x times 4, 4 squared. Then I crank it out. That's how it factors. Not a hard thing to do if you can learn your squares and cubes. So the first one up is factor and solve for real values of x. It does say real values of x. You have 125x cubed minus 8. What do you cube to become 125x cubed? 5. 5 what? 5x. This is why I've been asking you to memorize some of your cubes, so that you get to this and not be lost. What do you cube to become an 8? 2. Notice I'm not even paying attention to the fact that it's negative. I don't care. I just want to know how to make the 8. This thing handles signs. Or if there's a minus, you're a minus. Or if there's a plus, you're a plus. And then plug some crap in. Everywhere you see an A, what are you going to be? 5 plus. 5x. 5x. This is minus, so minus. Everywhere you see a B, what are you going to be? 2. On the second larger set. What are you supposed to do with that A in the larger set? I know, but it says A squared.
5x squared.
What is 5x all squared? 25x squared. Plus, because there's a plus. What are you supposed to do with A and B? Multiply. 5x times 2.
10x.
10x. Plus, because there's a plus. What are you supposed to do with B?
Squared.
2 squared is 4. All right. That was the factoring part. Now comes the solving part. What's true about 5x minus 2? What's that to equal?
0.
Has to equal 0.
That's 2
It is 2/5. I'm glad you can do that. A lot of kids can't. Move your 2 over. 5x is 2. Divide by 5. 2/5. If I have the second set, what's it still have to equal?
0.
How do you want to solve that one?
You have to subtract the 4.
Keep the square.
You could complete the square. No, Ross, you're not going to subtract 4. Very few kids in this world actually want to complete the square. If you are going to complete the square, that would be the first step. You'd subtract 4, and then you divide everything by 25. X equals negative b plus or minus square root. B squared minus 4c all over 2a. you see something that you don't think factors or you don't know how to factor, you write it with the quadratic formula. We may or may not do all this problem. It says real answers, doesn't it? Okay. Plug some crap in and see what we get. Opposite B. What's opposite B going to be? Negative 10. Plus or minus square root. We're supposed to square that B, so 10 squared. Minus 4 times A, and what's the A value? 25. Times the C value of 4. A lot of y'all omitted this one on the last basics quiz. I don't think there'll be an omit this Friday. Over twice A. 2 times 25. Now figure out what's inside the radical.
Square minus 400.
Which is 4.
5 times 4 is 4.
Oh, 300.
What kind of 300? Negative 300. So x is negative 10 plus or minus the root of negative 300, both over 50. Is that real? Let's do imaginary answers there. This big thing is, this is not real. Why is it not real? Because I don't think everybody knows this. What are you taking the square root of? A negative. It's not real. All I cared about in this notes was finding the real answers. That's the only real answer that one has. All right, here's example B. Express 12 cubed minus 6 cubed. And I think this is why Ryan was talking about being on ASVAB. It wasn't on your ASVAB exam, Ryan. You probably remembered if you were. It was on your benchmark. It wasn't. U.S. military is not going to ask kids to know the difference 2 cubes pattern. This is on your benchmark, and it was in the wrong spot. They put this on the calculator part of the EOC, on the benchmark. This is a non-calculator question. That's even why it says right there in the hint, this should not be on the calculator part. I swear it shouldn't be. I don't know how many of you guys just push buttons in a calculator. I kind of hope some of you did. But all you had to do is look over at the pattern. What are the signs on the pattern? Minus, plus, plus. Look at the answer choices. There's only one of them. I don't know how much work you did. I don't know how little work you did. All you had to do was pay attention to the pattern on the signs. It was minus, plus, plus. Again, look at the answer choices. Example B is minus, plus, plus. That's a 5-second problem. Tops. If you know your forms. All right, so that's probably the next pattern I'm going to talk about. That's the next problem we're talking about. Express 12 cubed minus 6 cubed as a difference of 2 cubes. What do you cube to become 12 cubed?
3. No, what the crap?
What do you cube to become 12 cubed? 12. You get that? Or do I need to whack you upside the head?
No.
Okay. A is 12. What do you cube to become 6 cubed?
6.
So B is 6. And then you plug in your little pattern right up there. What's the first factor going to look like?
Well, minus 6.
Good with that. How about the second factor? 144. You might actually see this written as 12 squared. We'll clean that one up a little bit. I wrote minus. Did I just screw up? What's it supposed to be? Plus. Minus, plus, plus. So plus, what are you supposed to do with A and B here?
Multiply.
Then we'll leave that as 12 times 6. plus, what are you supposed to do with that 6? Square it. When it comes to you actually taking the EOC, they might present the answer like this. Or they might do a little bit of the math in the second set. They might say 144 plus 72 plus 36. But my money would be them leaving it like that. That's how I would leave it if I was designing a course test. It's an easy question. All right, that was the difference of two cubes pattern. So up next is going to be the sum of two cubes pattern. Oh, there was one thing I meant to write on here. I didn't write it. When we did this example right here, what did we discover about the second set of parentheses? No. The answers were not real. That is always true. Always true. Second set of parentheses is always where your imaginary solutions. Always. Imaginary solutions. It's just always imaginary. I don't care how many you do these you do. It's always going to be imaginary. Always imaginary solutions.
So if it's just asking for a solution.
The one's a real one, all you care about is firsts. The one's all of them, well then suddenly you care about it. Here's a special pattern, sum of two cubes. The lettering is the same. Lettering still A and B, still A squared, still AB, and then B squared. The lettering is the same. You just have to remember your signs. This is A cubed plus B cubed. A cubed plus B cubed starts off with a plus. Middle symbol is a minus, last symbol is a plus. Plus, minus, plus. There's an acronym for that on the next page. This is still imaginary. Real solution is the first factor. All right. Let's see what's up with this one. Factor and completely solve for any real solutions. This is y cubed plus 125. What do you cube to become y cubed?
Y.
Cube y. There's letter A. What do you cube to become 125? So B is 5. Then you just plug in crap, your formula here. You go with it. First one's A plus B. So y plus 5. When you get to the second set, you look right above. You're supposed to do that A value. Square it. Y squared. What's the sign? Minus. All right. A times B. 5y. Plus B squared. 25. Quantity still equals 0. Now, since you're only finding the real solutions here, which factor do you care about? First or second? First. Y plus 5 is 0. What's your y value? -5. That is the real solution. Now, I've got the second one up here given, and this is still going to be the difference in two cubes pattern after you manipulate it quite a bit. It's going to be manipulated. Is there a cubic root of 16? No. So you're going to have to manipulate this. You can pull a b squared from both pieces. Hayden's paying attention to the first commandment of math. If you can pull it, pull it. But you can pull more than a b squared from both pieces. Both numbers are even. 2. If you pull a 2b squared from 16b to the 5th, what remains? Not 16 anymore. 8. 8b cubed. Let's switch over to uppercase so you can see that better. How about if you pull a 2b squared from 686b squared?
30, 43.
Good. That number is important if you've memorized your cubes. What do you cube to become 8b cubed? little more than B. You need 8B cubed.
Hey, me.
8 times 8 times 8 is 512. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8.
Yeah, but I thought.
So A is 2B. What do you cube become 343? It is 7. Memorization begins. 7 times 7 times 7 is 343. Now you have your letters. No, sorry, now you have your values you can substitute in. Still going to have our 2B squared leading out front. That was the first factor where you pulled it out. We'll move on to the second factor, which is the first factor of a special pattern. Look right above. It says A plus B. What would A plus B be?
2B plus 7.
2B plus 7.
The 7 is always going to be imaginary.
You're still going to write it out. It says factor completely and then solve. What are you supposed to do with your A value on the second set? The third set here.
Where it's to be 4B squared.
4B squared. Minus because there's a minus. 14B. Plus because there's a plus. 49. All right. How many factors are actually given this problem when you were done? What we just wrote out is completely factored. How many factors are there? 3, there are. What's the first one, Ross?
4B squared.
No. Are you China man? No, you American. Read left to right. What's the first factor?
2B squared.
2B squared. What must it equal?
0.
I probably shouldn't put stuff like that on YouTube. Thank God nobody watches it. 2B squared is 0. What's the second factor you see? What's the second factor, Shakespeare? What's the second factor that you see that has a real 0?
B squared minus 14.
No. 2B plus 7. Thank you, Mary. Does this factor even matter since we want reals? No, it's imaginary. Or 2B plus 7 is 0. If 2B squared is 0, what is B going to be? 0. Thank you, Sean. Sean, you got 49% of your benchmark right. That was actually really good for you. That also made me smile. Beat you.
I was laughing about that, but.
If 2B plus 7 is 0, what's the B value? That's right, -7/2. All right. There's your sum of two cubes pattern. So today we've gone over the difference of two squares, the difference of two cubes, sum of two cubes. The next page in your notes is an acronym. I realize that the letters alone are going to be hard for a lot of y'all to remember. But the acronym is to help you with signs. So, there's the two forms, by the way. Why so? Well, the S stands for same. Because if I see plus, I start with plus. If I see minus, I start with a minus. The O stands for opposite. If I see plus, guess what the next sign is? A minus. If I see minus, what's the second sign? Plus, opposite. And the A and the P stand for always positive. No, that is not my handwriting. About 4 years ago, I had a female student teacher. And she wrote those notes, and she wrote so much prettier than I could. So I just saved her handwriting for all of eternity. There you go, that's a soap. That helps you with signs. You still have to memorize the letters. I know you guys like acronyms. You have one for north, south, east, west. Why do you have an acronym for north, south, east, west? You know it too. What is it? What bugs me about that is that's in the entirely wrong order. Never eat sour wheat. That's northeast, southwest.
Yeah, never ate salad.
You're supposed to pair north and south together. You're supposed to pair east and west together. You're learning things entirely wrong. Teachers have treated you as though you're complete idiots, and guess what they have created? People who are.
They just teach us like if we're supposed to know everything ourselves, like they say, we want to know what you want to know, what you want to know. But when we get in the real world, we're working with a group, with partners, or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Teachers have treated y'all like you're complete idiots your whole life. And all they've done is create a whole bunch of complete idiots. You have an acronym for north, south, east, west. This is factoring by grouping. Factoring by grouping is always going to be 4 more terms. Always 4 terms or more. Factoring by grouping. I've got off the side the steps of what I'm going to do. Generally speaking, what you do is you take something, your hand or your middle finger, whatever you got, and you cover up the back, and you focus on the front. What do both pieces of the front have in common?
They both have at least 2 x's.
You don't say it like that.
They both have 2 x's.
X squared. 2x is 2x. X squared is x squared. You can pull an x squared from both the front pieces. If you pull an x squared from x cubed, what remains? X. If you pull it from negative 3x squared, what remains? Negative 3. Now, the nice thing about the factoring by grouping technique is that factor repeats. I'm going to put it again, I'm going to write and write it twice, a little space in between. If a problem is truly factoring by grouping, that factor always repeats. What do you pull from negative 16x plus 48 to become x minus 3? Try not to become, so that x minus 3 is left over. A little more than 16.
18.
That's not what I meant. Sign. If you distribute this 16 in, you get 16x minus 48. You had negative 16x plus 48. 99 out of 100 times there's a negative present before the negative. Pull the negative 16. All right. You have gone from something that had 4 pieces, you can count them as well as I can. That thing had 1, 2, 3, 4 distinct pieces. How many distinct pieces does it have now? 2. What's the symbol between the 2 pieces?
Negative.
The minus symbol. There's 2 things there. What do they both have in common? That's the common factor. You pull it. What's left over? Okay. If I pull x minus 3 from x squared times x minus 3, what's left over? X squared. And if I pull x minus 3 from negative 16 times x minus 3, what's left over? 16. First set is the common factor. The second set is the crap left over. All right? That's how it works. First set is the common factor. Second set is the crap you have left over. This didn't have an equal 0, but it's actually not done being factored. You are supposed to learn how to completely factor. This is only partial factorization. The second set, x squared minus 16 factors. FOIL? No, you would not FOIL. I said the second set factors. FOILing is the exact opposite of factoring. Come on, kids. This is an a squared minus b squared pattern.
Yep. So.
Or if you don't like a squared minus b squared, what's it take to make an x squared? It's an x and x. Factors of negative 16, so they cancel out to be 0 in the middle. One on positive, one on negative.
So you put some front, first, put some there.
And they had to add a 0 because there was no x in the middle. Or you learn your pattern. Go back to the first slide, a squared minus b squared. You square an x to become x squared. You square a 4 to become 16. There's no solve there, so we're done with that problem. There's no equality. All right, here's another factoring by grouping. 5b cubed plus 15b squared plus 12b equals negative 36. Is it in STD form? No. If it was in standard form, what would it be set equal to? 0. Don't pull anything until you're in standard form. There's a right time to pull and a wrong time to pull. If you pull now, it's too early. Take away all the fun. What happens at 36 when jumps equality? And y'all even heard my little dirty joke there. You're all too paying attention to anything else. So don't pull too early, you ruin all the fun. Focus on the first two pieces. What do they have in common?
They both have b squared.
Add a little bit more, a 5.
5b squared.
Both contain 5b squared. If you pull 5b squared from 5b cubed, what remains?
B,
Plus
3b.
3. Now, go back to your preceding example. What do you know about b plus 3?
It's your
It
constant.
repeats.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking
If the problem truly is factoring by grouping, that factor will repeat. So my attention is now here. What do I have to pull from 12b plus 36 so that b plus 3 is the factor? 12. If you understand the distributive property, you understand this. Because 12 times b is 12b, 12 times 3 is 36. Just like in the preceding factor, you write down the common factor first. These two terms, what do they have in common? B plus 3. And what's the crap left over? It's not 12. That's part of it. Part of it's plus 12. What's the first piece of crap you see?
5b squared.
5b squared. It does have an equal. We're supposed to solve it, but I'm going to save time and we're not going to. We've already done enough of that. All right, there's factoring by grouping. I guess you have a word problem left. Probably about the volume of a prism. You have 250 cubic inches of clay. Because I saw cubic inches, what pops into my head?
Square root.
Volume. I don't even no idea what you're talking about. Volume popped into my head. With which to make a sculpture of a rectangular prism, you want height and width each to be 5 inches less than the length. What should the dimensions of the prism be? Now, I mentioned volume because I saw cubic inches. How do you find the volume of a rectangular prism? Length times width times height. I have no idea where some of that stuff y'all were saying came from, but as soon as I see volume, I think about formulas for volume. All right? We're going to call the length L. And whether we were taught to read sight words or hooked on phonics, hopefully we can figure out the rest of this. You want the height and the width to be each be 5 inches less than the length. So if the length is L, what's the height? Both L minus 5. That's right, Ryan. He has said a lot of right things today. It's unusual. All right. There's my dimensions. I have a formula for volume. What would the setup look like?
Volume length equals 2L minus. What's different with that?
What's the volume? What's the volume?
250.
And it must equal length times width times height. The length is L. What's the width
Uh,
times the height?
L minus 5.
So it'd be like L cubed.
We'll worry about that in a little bit.
I can,
Why are you worried about a step 4 down, 4 things down? Slow progression here. I have a hint here, the next suggestion is to FOIL. What are you gonna FOIL? L times L minus 5 or L minus 5 times L minus 5? Yeah, the second sentence. What is L minus 5 times L minus 5?
L squared, plus 5L, minus 5L. And then plus 5L. I don't know. First.
That would be your L squared.
L squared, and then
Minus
outer,
5L.
which is minus 5L.
Then there's another minus 5L.
But then,
So what's minus 5L minus 5L? Minus 10L.
wouldn't it be minus 10L squared?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, you're supposed to know how to do this without being the work shown.
I thought 5
A negative 5L minus 5L is negative 10L.
squared.
No. Why would it be squared?
Because there's 2 L's.
If I was multiplying, I'm subtracting.
So what do you have so far? I can't remember that.
I have the original L times the result here of L squared minus 10L, and then what's negative 5 to the negative 5? That's 25. That's the result of FOILing. All right, next hint is the distributive property. What can you distribute to that new
The L.
L? So 250 is L cubed minus 2L squared, minus 10L squared. Plus 25. Now, then I got a hint that says one side. What do you think I mean by that? Standard form. What do I mean by that?
Subtract 2.
Subtract 250. Because you want to be comparing those zeros. Ooh, now we get to factor, because how many terms do we have? 4. 4 is almost always factored by group. So if you focus on the first 2 terms, L cubed minus 10L squared, what do they both have in common? L squared. If you pull an L squared from L cubed, what remains?
L.
If you pull an L squared from negative 10L squared, what remains? Negative 10. What do you know about L minus 10? It repeats. What do you pull from 25L minus 250 so that L minus 10 is left over? 25. And it was a positive 25 at that. Signs matter a great deal. I left 2 blanks here because factoring by grouping is always done in 2 steps. Lots of kids think they can factor by grouping in 1 step. They can't. What kills me, it's always the kid who has like a 40 average. I'm going to factor in 1 step. You've never been able to factor in 1 step. You're not ever going to be able to do it. Quit trying to do it. It's a multi-step process. I'm not knocking your intelligence. I kind of am because it's stupid to think that you can do it in 1 step. It's always a 2-step process on factoring by grouping. What's the common factor? L minus 10. What's the crap left over?
L squared plus 25.
There we go. Now, talk about solutions. There's 2 factors there. They both have to be set equal to what? 0. So 0 is L minus 10. It's an easy one. If 0 is L minus 10, what's the L value? 10 is L. The other one. The other one is L squared plus 25 being equal to 0. That's worth doing with y'all. You're close. You'll subtract your 25. You get plus or minus 5i. Which one of those is going to work? First one. So the length is 10. The width and the height are 1 and 5 less, so what are they? 5 and 5. Width is 5 and height is 5. And how's that good money at 5 times 5 times? It's 250. There it is. Till tomorrow. Oh, by the way, Thursday I'm in some crazy meeting, and I won't actually be in your class. You'll have a recorded lesson. And an IXL assignment. There's form quiz. Whoever's